Welcome. In 1993, Sega changed fighting games forever. Developed by Yu Suzuki's legendary AM2 studio, and already responsible for the creation of a whole host of arcade classics, Virtua Fighter brought polygonal characters in true 3D motion to the evergreen genre using the cutting-edge technology found within Sega's top-of-the-line Model 1 arcade board. Moving away from the fireballs and other fantastical elements seen in similar games available at the time, Virtua Fighter used just 3 buttons to deliver a wide range of real-world martial arts techniques, all performed by 8 characters, so detailed it was possible to track the movement of individual 3D fingers and thumbs. And that was just the beginning. Braids, bandanas, and belts moved as the characters did. And Pai and Kage's headgear could even be knocked off and left to lie on the floor for the remainder of the round. This leap into the future also meant secondary costumes could be much more than recolored versions of their default counterparts too. Check out Jackie's change from slip-on shoes to boots, Kage's new leg wear, Jeffrey's sleeveless green shirt. Many members of the cast boasted significant changes of clothing, a feature that simply wasn't possible anywhere else. The arenas these fashionable fighters squared up to each other in were just as incredible. Sarah's underlit rooftop stage was the perfect demonstration of Model 1's industry-leading power, showing players not only 2 realistic characters fighting in 3 dimensions, but accurately shading them in real time as well. The dramatic lighting catching shins and open palms as characters pushed forward and illuminating their backs when they were knocked out on the floor. As Virtua Fighter predates texture mapping, all the detail on the stages was in 3D too. Even the bolts you see on the stage floor aren't textures, but rather entirely made of polygons. Not that being KO'd was the only way to win. Emphasizing the 3D nature of the game, arenas were no longer a flat background, but a real physical space. And to step outside its bounds was an instant round-losing disaster. This opened up a whole new way of play. Being able to trip, push, and knock an opponent out of the ring gave even the weakest player a chance of turning the tables with the right move at exactly the right time. Virtua Fighter's phenomenal arcade success naturally saw the title brought home many times. A Saturn port debuted with the console back in 1994, followed by Virtua Fighter Remix the year after in the arcades on Sega's STV hardware, as well as on the Saturn, using all new and exclusive texture map details to give the game a fresh look. In the same year, the game also received an impressive port to the 32X. And to celebrate the series' 10th anniversary, Virtua Fighter had a very special home release made for Sony's PlayStation 2, including not only the original cast, but the entire Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution roster, recreated in the original's distinctive style, with everyone receiving an upgrade to their then-current movesets. Such was the arcade machine's power compared to home consoles at the time. It wasn't until 2020 that a truly arcade-perfect port reached Sega fans, thanks to the Astro City Mini, where once again, it managed to be the standout title even amongst a selection of 36 Sega hits. Virtua Fighter was a standout title on every format it graced. With its unstoppable presence, became the template for all that followed, and remains today the very essence of this now universal genre distilled into its purest form.
How do you follow up a game that changed the world? Who would even dare try? Sega would. Virtua Fighter 2 hit Japanese arcades in 1994, barely a year after the original rewrote the fighting game rulebook, and ran on Sega's industry-leading Model 2 arcade board. This technological leap enabled Yu Suzuki's team at AM2 to create highly detailed and fully texture-mapped character models, all moving at a silky smooth 60 frames per second. The motion-captured fighters, and Virtua Fighter 2 was one of the very first games to ever use that technique, battling each other in arenas that felt more real than ever before. Each location whisking players away to an awe-inspiring new location, brimming with 3D background details, surrounding them with Sarah's lightning-lit Coliseum, or floating them along on newcomer Shun's incredible raft ride. As you all know, Shun D wasn't the only new competitor to join Virtua Fighter's iconic cast of fighters. Leon Raphael debuted here too, bringing praying mantis-style kung fu to the game. To keep everything perfectly balanced, the original cast all had their fighting styles expanded and refined as well, allowing for more control and deeper tactics than ever before. Yet all still performed using the same intuitive 3-button control scheme pioneered by the original game. A game this good couldn't be kept in arcades alone for long, and in 1995, proud Saturn owners were able to buy a port, handcrafted by AM2 themselves, ensuring that the only way to play a more accurate version of Virtua Fighter 2 for years to come was to buy your very own arcade machine. 2 years later, the game made the leap to PC, and after that, wouldn't be seen again until 2004, when it appeared as Volume 16 of the Japan-only Sega Ages 2500 series for the PlayStation 2, an all-new conversion designed to be virtually indistinguishable from the original arcade machine. With the series' popularity still burning brightly all over the world, this arcade classic returned as part of 2012's Model 2 collection for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and since then has reappeared in the Yakuza Series Club Sega 3 times, bringing the game's fighting spirit to a whole new generation. As if that wasn't already enough, the entire cast received an adorable makeover for the arcade, and Saturn titled Virtua Fighter Kids, and were shrunk down in a different way for the Game Gear anime tie-in Virtua Fighter Mini, and had 2 different digital art collections as well. A slick set of CGI renders of the full roster on Saturn, and cute portable portrait packages for Akira and Pi on the Game Gear. There's something else we're forgetting here, isn't there? Oh, that's right! Never one to be left out, the Genesis had its very own custom-built 2D reimagining of Virtua Fighter 2, released in the US in 1997, ensuring as many Sega supporters as possible got to play one of the hottest arcade experiences of the 90s, and Virtua Fighter fans had a brand new, old way to play this incredible title. Virtua Fighter 2 didn't just live up to the impossibly high expectations set by the first game. It exceeded them, proving once again that the gold standard of arcade gaming was wherever Sega decided it should be.
If the first 2 Virtua Fighter games were about getting 3-dimensional human forms onto a screen and making them look and move like seasoned martial artists, then the third, released in 1996, was only concerned with taking that ambitious concept to the next level. All thanks to the unbeatable combination of the extraordinary Model 3 arcade hardware, beating at the heart of Virtua Fighter 3 and AM2's tireless commitment to excellence. Eyes were now capable of automatically tracking their opponent as they moved around in battle. Fingers could end with painted fingernails. Intricately embroidered clothing had layers that could move, sway, and even reflect light. One game earlier, these were all features you'd only find in promotional artwork or the highly detailed pre-rendered images of Virtua Fighter 2's digital portrait collection. In Virtua Fighter 3, these features all played out before your eyes in real time. The game's battlegrounds were given just as much care and attention as the combatants within them, largely abandoning the neat squares of old in favor of uneven floors and natural shapes, characters kicking up sand or getting their feet wet in running water as they moved around. A strong hit could see someone knocked into the clear blue sea or bounced off the low walls and fences waiting at the edges of these remarkable arenas. And skilled players could deliberately move to higher ground to give themselves a tactical advantage over their opponent. And those weren't the only tricks up Virtua Fighter 3's industry-leading sleeves. For the first and only time, the series had a dedicated dodge button, enabling the cast, including newcomers Aoi Umeno Koji and the mighty Taka Arashi, to swiftly move in or out of the screen and away from an incoming flurry of punches and kicks, creating fights that could turn into a whirlwind of thrilling near misses and lightning-fast counterattacks in uneven arenas. The year after AM2 once again redefined exactly what it meant to be a flagship arcade title, they released Virtua Fighter 3TB, an upgraded version of the already boundary-pushing phenomenon, adding, yep, you guessed it, a team battle mode, allowing for intense 3-against-3 clashes in arcades all over the world. And at home, too, as it was this version that launched alongside Sega's innovative Dreamcast in Japan back in 1998, giving console gamers their first and only chance to play this cutting-edge title in their own living rooms, and a chance to trade blows with the AI from a unique first-person point of view, too.
Virtua Fighter 4 released in 2001 after a 5-year break. The series back and ready to revolutionize arcade gaming once again. The game's Naomi 2-powered graphics may have turned heads in every arcade it was played in, but in this exciting new millennium, looking good was no longer the measure of a title's power. Online connectivity was. Naturally, AM2 came along and showed everyone else how it was done. What else did you expect from a developer with a decades-long habit of creating instant classics? The focus was now firmly on the players using Virtua Fighter 4's varied roster of 13 fighters on making their skill and personalities shine through in the heat of battle. This was done by using special character access cards that could be inserted into the arcade machine to save their personal data, giving users the chance to customize their favorite characters, keep track of their victories, and see how they stacked up against the best Virtua Fighter fans in their own arcade and beyond for the very first time. The base version of Virtua Fighter 4 once again added 2 brand new characters, each bringing their own unique moves and playstyle to an already varied roster. Monk Lei Fei brought Shaolin Kung Fu to the fight, while Vanessa Lewis gave players the chance to pummel their opponents with Vale Tudo-style martial arts. For the first time ever, one character didn't return from an earlier game. Virtua Fighter 3's sumo wrestler Taka Arashi. Guess he was just too much for everyone to handle, huh? Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution hit arcades in 2002 with the ultimate version of this 4th installment in the series, subtitled Final Tune, making its debut in 2004. These brought with them new stages and even more new characters. Brad and Go. Talk about spoiling your players, right? While also expertly refining the already amazing base game into a true classic. At home, Virtua Fighter 4, as well as its direct successor, Evolution, were both made available to buy worldwide on the PlayStation 2, adding heaps of new content based on data code directly from arcade users, and even allowing you to add your own via Virtua Fighter 4's AI training mode, complementing those challenges with the best fighting game tutorials ever created, teaching players fighting game theory, as well as standard move lists, with the aim of giving everyone a solid understanding of the fundamentals before taking them as far as they wanted to go. Players were then able to take what they had learned out into the game's quest mode, traveling from one virtual location to another, and fighting against AI players and their heavily personalized versions of the cast. The true arcade experience brought home. Fighting games had changed, and Virtua Fighter 4 had made changing with them and staying on top look effortless.
Virtua Fighter 5, the digital embodiment of 13 years of fighting game finesse, first stunned arcade goers in 2006 with its beautiful use of Sega's powerful Limburg arcade technology. Matches now wowing players with fluid displays of almost truly lifelike characters fighting each other within more detailed environments than ever before. At this time, more arcades than ever were embracing high-definition monitors and internet connectivity, allowing AM2 to go all in on the rich social features that made Virtua Fighter 4 such a groundbreaking hit. The series aiming to place the players themselves at the front and center of every battle, regardless of their skill level. Personal data was once again stored on character access cards players could slot into any Virtua Fighter 5 arcade machine in the world, enabling them to give their favorite characters a fresh look that stood out from the crowd, and keep records of all of their brilliant victories, as well as the fights that didn't quite go to plan too. These matches could even be exhibited on VF.TV, an arcade monitor dedicated to showcasing these thrilling bouts, or online via VF.net. Always keen on adding new experiences to one of the most finely tuned fighting game series in existence, the base game added Eileen and El Blaze to the roster, using Monkey Kung Fu and show-stopping lucha libre wrestling styles, respectively. And 2 years later, Virtua Fighter 5R, a revised version of the game, added two more, or more accurately, one new character was added. That'd be Jin Kujo, Karate Master and Deadly Assassin. And another made his long-awaited comeback. That's right, Virtua Fighter 3's Taka Arashi returned to remind the world of the power of sumo wrestling. And for the first time in a decade, every fighter from every game was playable in one place. And that was that, right? Please, since when have AM2 ever rested on their laurels? Virtua Fighter 5 was so popular, it had another arcade update in 2010 called Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown. This time around, adding the ability to automatically share news of your many victories via Twitter, new character costumes, and elevating the already industry-leading character animation to stratospheric new heights. Console users weren't left behind either, with the original Virtua Fighter 5 available to play on PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 in 2007, followed by Final Showdown's digital release on both a few years later. This version of the game can also be found as a playable virtual arcade machine in Yakuza 6, Judgment, and Yakuza Like a Dragon's Club Saga, giving everyone the chance to keep their Virtua Fighter skills sharp, even when they're not playing Virtua Fighter. This might not be the final showdown after all.
PlayStation